Hey everyone, welcome to the channel, and in today's video we are going to discuss what are actually too big to fail companies, or do they even exist. In the world of business, it is very famous term that if whether you should invest in too big to fail companies or not. So as a conservative investor, I prefer to invest in large companies, and especially in large companies I prefer to invest in like gigantic companies which contribute directly to the economy of any particular company. So now if we talk about like the US, if we look at like Microsoft, Apple, Walmart, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Google, Amazon, all these companies, and I would say Bank of America as well, all these companies are super duper large, and the entire economy of the US is largely dependable on these companies for like their respective sectors. So what would happen if any of these company would fail? So can you imagine that like thousands of employees would lose their job, and at the same time the utilities or the service and the products which is provided by the company would wipe out from the entire country, which would lead to the massive economic collapse in any particular country. When you invest in all these companies, you think that hey, you know what, in the worst case scenario, what happens is if the entire stock market would collapse, these large companies would sustain their business because they are largely profitable, they are market leaders in their respective industry, and will it will outperform compared to rest of the stock market because they are the leaders in the particular industry. So I agree with this concept, and that's why I believe that you should invest in gigantic companies. Most of the time you feel that your return on investment is very less, but at the same time you will see stability in your portfolio. When it comes to India, I would say Reliance Industries, HDFC Bank, TCS, Infosys, and Tata Steel would be too big to fail companies, I would say, because if these companies would collapse, the Indian economy would be hurt very badly, and it would damage the entire economy as well. Adani has been taking loans like super duper massive loans, right? So what happens is that, what if in the worst case scenario, if the any group of company of Adani would fail, it would lead to the massive banking crisis as well. So here you need to understand that in which industry you are going to invest, because anything can happen to the particular industry, and if the too big to fail businesses can fail, then you will lose your entire wealth as well. Another thing that I would like to discuss is that the GDP of South Korea is entirely, like I would say, majorly dependent on Samsung. So Samsung contributes 20% of the GDP of South Korea itself. So if anything happens with Samsung, the South Korean economy would go down badly. And because of these reasons, if you invest in large companies, you won't see massive super duper return on investment in the short run. But if you want consistency in your portfolio, in the long run you will see a decent amount of returns and stability in your portfolio. But the thing that most people want is that like super duper like high risk high return game, and they end up making mistakes, and they avoid investing in large companies because they think that, hey, you know what, these companies are already saturated, these companies would not grow from this particular junction, and they avoid investing. But I would not suggest that you forget all these companies. Like there is still a lot of potential to grow because they have the money, to innovate, they have the money to invest more and more, acquire more businesses, and focus on maximizing their profit. So because of all these reasons, and because of no matter happens in the entire world or geopolitical scenario, what happens is these companies would stay in the market, they are not gonna lose at a large extent, and that is why I personally believe that investing in large companies makes sense, and in the long run, they will sustain in the market. During the COVID-19, I have been reading lots of these kind of articles that indicated that whether where you should invest your money. Like typically, small cap and mid cap were crushed during the stock market crash of COVID, and during that scenario, people like many economists and investors were discussing that what would be the right strategy and what should be the allocation of the investment portfolio, and in which they have clearly mentioned that if you are looking forward for long term, very long term and stable portfolio with a consistent return, you must have a large portion in large cap. If you have like small cap and micro cap, you are gonna lose a lot. You never know if they will succeed or not because it's totally uncertain business. But like your focus should be more on large cap. So this was all about the video. I hope you like it, and I will see you in the next one.